Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Your Green Business virtual tour with CSV Architects. For those of you who don't know us, EnviroCenter is a nonprofit environmental organization based here in Ottawa. Our core mission supports sustainable lifestyles, which means that we encourage people to take action on climate in their own lives, in their homes, their workplaces and businesses, their communities, and right here in our city. By pointing folks toward practical ways to reduce their environmental impact, we help them make lasting, positive change. Our work focuses on 4 key areas: green homes, green transportation, green business, and green lifestyle. Today, we're here to talk about green business. EnviroCenter's Your Green Business program support businesses and other workplace organizations in working toward achieving our collective sustainability goals. The Your Green Business Hub in Ottawa, also known as Carbon 613, helps local businesses achieve their sustainability goals by sharing knowledge, resources, and tools for tracking greenhouse gas emissions and setting a reduction target. The Carbon 613 Your Green Business Hub is part of a national network of Green Economy Canada hubs, with more than 275 member businesses across Ontario and new hubs and partner programs growing across the country. We can tap into broad support without losing our local focus. Our virtual speaker and tour series will host a fresh guest each month and cover a variety of topics related to business sustainability. For more info, you can visit www.yourgreenbusiness.ca, and to stay up to date, you can sign up for our newsletter. We'll be posting a link in the chat. Looks like Mandy's already done it. Thanks, Mandy. Just a few logistical notes before I introduce today's speaker. Please note that the session is being recorded and shared online after the event. We have a lot of people on the call today, so please keep yourself muted during the presentation portion so that everyone is able to hear our presenters speak. And we will be monitoring for questions in the chat box. So please type them there as they pop into your head, and we will bring them forward for a question and answer period following the presentation. And if there's time, maybe people can jump on the call and ask some questions directly. So I'll introduce our presenter today. CSV Architects joined Carbon 613 in 2016, and we're ever appreciative of the expertise they have to share on sustainable design. Jessie Smith is a principal and project architect with a wide range of experience delivering sustainably designed spaces. Jessie's list of key projects includes several multi-unit affordable housing projects. One of these, 211 Lees Avenue, Haley Court, was recently awarded a City of Ottawa Urban Design Award. Other key projects include worship spaces, office spaces, and community centers. Jessie is an advocate for efficiency in all aspects of design and project management. She's passionate about sustainable design as a way to improve occupant comfort and well-being. Originally from Northwestern Ontario, Jessie studied locally at Carleton University, where she received a Bachelor of Architectural Studies degree and a subsequent Master of Architecture degree. She also lived in Helsinki, Finland for several months, where she studied wood architecture. She's a LEED Accredited Professional, as well as a Green Globes Professional. Jessie served on the board of the Ottawa Regional Society of Architecture for 4 years as vice chair, but stepped down to spend some time taking care of her 2 young children. Once again, welcome to everyone in our audience. Thanks for joining us. And Jessie, you have the digital floor.
Perfect. Thanks, Evan. So I'm just gonna try and share my screen here. Thanks everyone for attending. Here we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to our virtual office tour. As Evan noted, my name is Jessie Smith, and I'm one of the principals at CSV Architects. We're a 25-person architecture firm. The celebration of our 20th anniversary in business last year coincided with a move to our new office space, which we'll be showing you today. We have a wide range of client types, and our vision is to create sustainable communities through meaningful architectural design and collaborative discussion. We're focused on creating great spaces for people. We're a general architectural practice, meaning we have a wide range of project types. We can break these project types down into 6 categories: public use, educational and childcare, healthcare, residential, commercial, and office, and heritage adaptive reuse. The underlying theme of all of our work, however, is sustainability. Our mission is to achieve excellence in design, to provide outstanding service to our clients, and to help build healthy, sustainable communities. I want to thank the EnviroCenter and Carbon 613 for inviting us to do this tour. We've been members of Carbon 613 since their inception in 2016. Although our mission and vision are aligned with Carbon 613, our struggle as members has been finding ways to improve the sustainability of our own office space, since a lot of our existing infrastructure was old, inefficient, and under-maintained. At the very least, we've always participated in EnviroCenter's Bike to Work Month. Our previous office location had a lot of challenges, which we fought to improve over the 15 years we were leasing the space. In some cases, we were successful, and in other cases, we were not. For example, the heating and cooling system was challenging, particularly in the shoulder seasons. The space was routinely overheated and overcooled, and we had very limited access to controls. In addition, because we had generously sized windows on both the north and south sides of the building, we had a hot side and a cold side and struggled to manage the differential temperature. We were eventually successful in convincing the landlord to install a few operable window units intermittently placed throughout our space, which helped. We still made use of plenty of desk fans in the summer and a few small space heaters in the winter. We also struggled to implement a compost system. Large companies that do pick up have programs designed for large buildings, which are far too expensive for us to justify with our relatively small production of food scraps. We tried multiple systems, including countertop composter, which was too often clogged by banana peels. It was just not suited to use in an office setting. We resorted mainly to collecting food scraps in plastic bins and taking turns bringing it home to our green bins or backyard composters. Over the years, we routinely surveyed the team to find out what their main stressors were and to try to resolve any issues we could. But there were some items that we just could not reconcile in the existing space. We had a completely open floor plate with only one private meeting room that lacked acoustic privacy. The design of the individual workstations had been implemented when the CRT computers existed, so they had very deep corners sitting unused collecting dust. The ergonomics of individual workstations was a problem, and the retrofit adjustable height systems provide an improvement, but they're not perfect. And secure indoor bike storage was limited. Most importantly, our location on the 4th floor and the aging elevator made full accessibility nearly impossible, as did the washrooms, which the landlord had no plans of improving. These were not items we could easily resolve without fully fitting up the space and convincing the landlord to make substantial infrastructural changes. If we were going to invest the money in a fit-up, we wanted it to be in a building that provided a stronger infrastructure to support us. We had expanded our office twice in the same building until we were taking up just over 50% of the floor plate. When we needed to expand a third time, we looked at all our options and decided that it was time for us to move to a new workplace that would better reflect our vision and mission. Our overall project goal was to ensure that the office environment could reflect the values of the firm. We wanted to promote environmental stewardship through improving our operations and be able to fully support the well-being of our team. We wanted to reduce our energy consumption, increase controllability of systems, increase accessibility and ergonomics, and provide a comfortable, effective workplace for the team. Oh, and we wanted to be centrally located to promote walking, cycling, and use of public transit. When we made the decision to move, we reached out to our team with a survey to find out what the most important elements of the new location would be. This is a visual representation of those elements, with the largest squares representing the highest number of votes. The most important were access to daylight and views, improved air quality and temperature control, easy access to public transit and bike paths, and access to a more diverse range of spaces, including meeting rooms and informal collaboration spaces. Further down the list were availability of staff parking, secure bike storage, and a shower. The stars indicate if we've achieved success. There were only 2 items we didn't feel we could fully provide. One was availability of parking, the other was secure bike parking, and we'll talk more about those items later on. This graphic shows the features of the new space that got us really excited. As you can see, we were able to find a space with a walk score of 100, a transit score of 100, and a bike score of 75, which was perfect. This is our new space, 190 O'Connor. Our next step was to start designing. Full team engagement in the design process was very important to us. We had only a few people producing the actual design options, but the full team was engaged through a series of polls, surveys, and collaboration sessions. As I continue, the slides will show images of our collaboration sessions and discussions. Having extensive experience with multiple third-party verification systems made it easy to come up with sustainable goals. We started by going back to our own corporate sustainability plan as a starting point, and we also took elements from the Well Building Standard, LEED, and Fitwel to set our targets. We decided along the way to submit the project for Fitwel certification, targeting 2 stars. From our corporate sustainability plan came these items: protect the environment and public health, conserve natural resources, minimize waste, purchase quality, long-lasting, and durable furniture and other equipment, purchase furniture that contains recycled content or is locally manufactured, purchase Energy Star labeled equipment, provide amenities to encourage brown bag lunches and use of reusable containers, use FSC or SFI certified wood whenever possible, select locally produced goods, use no or low VOC products, use products with high recycled content, avoid sending items to the landfill as much as possible, select low flow fixtures, recycle construction waste, provide access to daylight and views, and provide individual lighting controls for all occupants to enable adjustments to suit individual task needs and preferences. We also looked at the WELL building standard for guidance, even though we are not planning to certify with WELL. WELL measures attributes of buildings that impact occupant health by looking at 7 concepts: air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind. There are over 100 concepts to consider, some affecting base building design, some affecting selection of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, some affecting operations, and some affecting organizational policies. The interiors project type from the WELL building certification is relevant for office projects only occupying a portion of the space within a building. I'm not going to go through all the concepts, but I'm going to focus on a few key highlight areas that we looked at for our renovation. Public and active transportation support is very important to the team. As you saw in the results of the staff survey, access to public transportation, bike paths, shower, and secure bike storage were all high on the list. We reached out to our new landlord to try to find locations within the public space of the building where secure storage could be added for the shared use of all building occupants. Unfortunately, there were no locations that would be feasible, but it was worthwhile exploring the options. There was a lot of concern from staff at the outset that parking was going to be an issue. Where we had previously had a first come, first served parking lot with a flexible amount of parking, at our new location, we needed to secure leased parking spaces in a finite quantity. In order to fully encourage use of alternative transportation, we decided individuals would now be responsible for paying the cost of their own parking space. Interestingly, although there was a level of concern during the original survey, there wouldn't be enough staff parking, once we announced the location, a number of team members determined their need to drive and park at the office was no longer a need. Some people adapted to walking or cycling or taking public transit, while others began carpooling with family members. We were able to adjust from regularly having 10 people driving each day to 6, while simultaneously increasing capacity of the office and hiring new staff. We have a corporate Communauto membership, as well as a Presto card for office use. These provide ways for staff to attend meetings and site visits without needing a car parked at the office. We also have plans to add a bike maintenance station. However, due to the office being closed this summer, that hasn't yet come to fruition. We'll make sure it happens next spring. Our previous location featured large expanses of glass, and all workstations were within 15 feet of the windows, with great views and natural light. This is something the team loved and listed as their top priority for the new space. We focused our search on finding a place with the right configuration to allow a similar layout with workstations near the windows. We laid out the workstations in pods of 6 to ensure this priority item was provided. Another request that was dear to our hearts was to provide more space for plants and greenery. Biophilia is one of the main features of the WELL building standard to nurture the innate human-nature connection. It supports occupant emotional and psychological well-being by incorporating the natural environment into the interior design. We designed custom millwork walls between the workstation pods to provide storage, as well as an incredible number of planters. We had to put together a whole plant team within the office to research the right types of plants for our light conditions, acquire the plants, and also to maintain them. We had a lot of fun shopping for all the plants and filled several carloads full. The abundance of plants brings life to the office and provides a calming, relaxing atmosphere. Biophilia is also provided by bringing natural woods and wood grains into the space. This is a really simple strategy that can be incorporated into any space, regardless of light quality. Indoor air quality and occupant comfort was the second highest priority item for the team, and it was one of the greatest challenges as well. It's an item that has not been fully resolved, even after a full year in the space, although we are getting very close. We started the discussion during the lease negotiation period. We stated our expectation for the space to meet ASHRAE 62 for ventilation and ASHRAE 55 for thermal comfort. The initial request was given a disclaimer by the landlord that the building systems are old and may not have capacity for this level of ventilation. They also made the case that others in the building have not complained about airflow, even though their spaces are underserved. We didn't take that response at face value, and we pushed to make them make any required upgrades to the system to provide us with the ventilation at the ASHRAE standard. We ensured these standards were noted in the lease. Over the course of the past year, we've had to push for rebalancing of the system and improvements to meet the standard. The original test results were way off from the design system, and unless we had been knowledgeable and vocal, our space would have remained underventilated. They added 2 pieces of HVAC equipment to the base building system to increase airflow, and neither of these would have been added had we not pushed. A number of other initiatives represent a basic level of care we provide to all clients when designing interior spaces. So this is just a summary of some of the elements of our space. Our workstation furniture is Green Guard certified. Our carpet tile has 30 to 70% recycled content and is Green Guard Gold certified. Our wood slat ceiling is FSC certified. Our acoustic ceiling tile has 44% recycled content and is Green Guard Gold certified. Our kitchen table is made out of local reclaimed maple and is locally fabricated. Our workstations contain 40% recycled content. Our seating was all reused from the previous location. Our light fixtures are all LED with occupancy sensors and dimmers. Our plumbing fixtures are all low flow. Our appliances are Energy Star rated with lowest energy use. Our paints and sealants were all low and no VOC, and our glass walls into meeting rooms allow natural light into all regularly occupied spaces. There were some pleasant surprises that were unplanned that came with the move. We were excited to find out that the new tenants in our old space were able to reuse the furniture we left behind. About 75% of the desks, screens, furniture, and millwork are still being used today. We also discovered upon moving that one of the building tenants has organized a common green bin pickup, so we now have a proper compost solution. This significantly minimizes the waste going to landfill, as the majority of our waste is organic or paper, which can be composted and recycled. Once we return to the office full-time, we'll start to track how much waste we're able to divert from the landfill by weighing our compost and recording the results regularly. So I'm now going to play a walkthrough of our office space, which is, I guess, what you all came for. So this is showing the entrance to our space. We've been here for a year now, but we've really only been here for 6 months. So we still have some art to hang on the walls. This is our reception area. One of the things we love is that when you come in the space, you see directly outside, both ways that you look. And then this is going into our main boardroom space. Our previous location had a very large central table that could seat everyone in the office, and we felt that was an integral idea that we wanted to carry through to this office. So we have a space here that we can seat all staff for a large meeting or lunch. This is also our sample library area at the far end, and we call this room our studio. So this is where we are able to have collaborative sessions. We're able to pull all our samples out with great natural light and really get together and work on problems together. And then this is heading from the studio area through. You can see all the workstations have great access to natural light, 6 workstations per pod, and 4 out of each 6 workstations has height adjustable table. So we're able to provide very good ergonomics, and people who've requested sit-stand stations are located in those spaces. This is our kitchen. One of the elements of feedback we got from staff was that having the kitchen central to the space was really important. People wanted to be able to get together and be collaborative and feel like a family and not have the kitchen feel like it's out in a separate room. We also have these touchdown spaces in the center of the aisle. So we're able to have a lot of extra collaboration spaces. This is a small meeting room for 1 to 2 people. This is another one of those touchdown stations, and they get a lot of use actually, just to roll out a set of drawings for a few minutes. And with the double aisle, you're able to actually sit on one side and still have people pass by on the other side. And I think this gives a really good view of all the plants in the office. The one comment we get when people see our spaces is how much greenery we were able to incorporate. And we're really proud of that. It really does make the space feel a lot homier, a lot warmer. It's just much nicer to be able to look up and rest your eyes by looking at some plants. So we're just going to tuck in here to the meeting room I'm actually sitting in right now. Last view of the office. This is another one of our small meeting rooms. This is the one with soft seating for phone calls. And then this is our back entrance, and you can see we've got space for 4 bikes here. Unfortunately, this year we weren't able to test if this was enough spaces. But if not, then we're going to add some more racks in here. And this is where our bike maintenance station will go as well. And lots of space for coats, 2 different heights. We've got the low height and the high for increased accessibility. And then just one final view of the office. So I'm now going to just talk about a few takeaways if you're planning your own office fit up. Number 1, engage staff from the beginning so you can ensure you know what's important to them. Keep checking in throughout the process because you might be surprised how their desires change when they start to see opportunities a new space brings. Address sustainability and accessibility up front during lease negotiations to make sure base building concerns are addressed. For example, the existing washrooms in our new building have very narrow entrances and would not be deemed fully accessible. We were able to have a universal access washroom constructed as part of our renovation by negotiating it to be shared by the whole building and paid for by the landlord. Make sure you allow enough time to search for the right space to lease or buy. We spent 2 years searching before we finally find the right spot in the right location with the right features. Fortunately, Cressa Ottawa were very patient with us to make sure we were 100% satisfied with the end result. We heard many good things about our new landlords, and we were assured that they take very good care of their buildings. When dealing with older buildings, a high level of maintenance is required. Glenview have been a great partner and collaborator and have ensured the team's comfort in our new space. Spend the time to assemble the right team of professionals for your project. There's a lot of coordination that goes into a fit up, and there are a lot of details to consider. Find a team whose sustainability and design vision is in alignment with yours to ensure the most important goals are set and met. An office fit up is a big investment, and you want to get it right. And thank you so much for listening and touring our space. And feel free to ask any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. That was wonderful. It was great getting to tour the space, even though they're all back at home or working remotely anyway in different places, or a few people in the office here and there. Really enlightening. We have a lot of people on the call, so I will open the floor up to those of you with questions. If people try to talk at the same time, I may have to cut in and get people to take turns, but generally feel free to open your mic up and ask some questions of Jessie if you have them. Well, we sometimes do get a little stage fright off the top, but I think I see one here in the chat now. So KRP Properties wanted to ask, how do you encourage staff uptake of day-to-day sustainability habits? For example, moving away from disposable utensils to reusable, that kind of thing. Do you have any advice for that?
Well, I guess providing things like reusable utensils. So we did stock our kitchen with everything you would need: knives, forks, spoons, bowls, cups, mugs. reusable washcloths, and then leading by example, using those things ourselves. Obviously, we can't make somebody stop using disposable utensils, but you can demonstrate to them how it could be otherwise done. Otherwise, things like opening up the blinds, you know, turning off lights, like those are things we have policies for, I guess, and we put those policies into our sustainability plan.
Yep, that's definitely good advice. Formalize those kinds of things, because you might have someone in the office who knows to turn off lights and monitors, and then they're off for a week and suddenly that's not getting done. So it's great to have those policies in place. Thanks for that insight, Jessie. I've got another question in the chat now here. And this is an interesting one, certainly to everyone, I'm sure. What additional measures will you put in place for your office in response to COVID health concerns? I happen to have read a blog post recently that you guys put up, so I can maybe direct people to that after the call, but why don't you speak a bit about that and how maybe that aligned or interfered with your sustainability focused improvements?
Well, we actually were pleasantly surprised by how well this office has adapted to you know, the post-COVID concerns. I think I showed in the video the double corridor down the center of the space, and we've actually found that's very helpful because it allows people to cross paths without being closer than 6 feet. So that was more of a pleasant surprise that we discovered. When we started coming back to the office, we actually gave everyone the option to stay home or to return to the office. And we did a poll, big on polls, and we gathered the information because obviously if everyone wanted to come back immediately, we wouldn't be able to accommodate. But we drew a plan. We made sure that the workstations that were going to be occupied were, you know, more than 6 feet apart. And we moved some people around as needed to accommodate everybody who wanted to come back to the office being in a workstation that was safely at least 6 feet from the next person. Besides that, we just added hand sanitizer and cleaners throughout. We unfortunately took away reusable like cloth, what do you call them, dishcloths and things like that, and replaced it with paper towels on a dispenser that's hands-free. As well, our landlord, again, kudos to great landlord. They put up signage in the washrooms. They replaced all the toilet flappers. Sorry, I'm forgetting the word, but they're all hands-free toilets now. They're all hands-free soap dispensers and faucets. So they've put up hand sanitizer stations in the corridors. One other thing that we're really happy about with this new space is it's on the ground floor. It's something we selected because it was easier to provide accessibility on the ground floor and because of all our struggles with our old elevator. But it does reduce the amount of times that people need to be in an elevator with other people.
That's great. No, it's a whole list of things. That's fantastic. One quick question before I circle back to another one. Carly asked how many people are in your firm?
We're about 25.
And I will sort of add to that. Right now, how many people are working in the office in general, or how many people are working from home? What's sort of the split right now for you guys? Or
we're about 5 to 7 in the office on any given day.
Perfect. And then I'll circle back quickly. Philip had a question. Do you and will you monitor yours and your building's energy, water, and waste usage and look to improve? Now, I know you've just changed buildings and you have a new landlord, so what can you say about that?
That is a big challenge. So when we first moved in, we actually planned that we were going to monitor our energy by putting in a panel separate for our suite so we could monitor. Unfortunately, the costs for that just were not affordable for us. It was going to mean rewiring the entire suite. So for now, we don't really have a plan for that. And it's something that in an older building, that's, I think, just the reality. Unless you're willing to make a large financial investment, it's really hard to add that monitoring after the fact.
This is definitely a challenge that we see with lots of tenant organizations in Ottawa in some of these older buildings that don't have those individual monitoring systems. One of the approaches that we recommend is going through the landlord and trying to get some building totals to make some estimates. Do you think that that's something that will be more of an option for you in your new building compared to your old building, where I know you had some challenges around that? It sounds like you've made a lot of progress and had a lot of productive discussions with your landlord, which I think is something people could take a lot away from. Have you talked much around this?
We haven't had discussions directly about getting the monitoring information, but I feel like they would probably be receptive to that.
That's great. Just going back to the questions in the chat here, we have one from Michael. How do you manage dishwashing and other cleanup when providing common utensils, mugs, etc.? I assume he means, do you have certain staff who are assigned to sort of check on that? Do people take care of their own, or do you have a system in place?
Previously, I mean, everybody is responsible to clean up their own. And previously we had a system where everybody had a week and we'd take turns just making sure everything was tidy and clean. Now we're relying more on people to do their own because we're trying to avoid that cross-contamination, and everybody is very good at cleaning up their own dishes. And the dishwasher, I guess, is the answer. We have a dishwasher and we use it regularly. And we just make sure we wash our hands, you know, before you empty the dishwasher, and regularly clean the kitchen with disinfectant.
That makes sense. Well, it's a similar system to what we were using before we were working from home at EnviroCenter. And it does take a little bit of cooperation. Every once in a while, someone leaves a coffee mug and there's a question about who it is. But when you're a tight workplace and you get along and have sort of a culture of cooperation, then those things tend to work themselves out. But that's great that it's working for you. We did get a question from Maziar. Do you see any remarkable on the bills? I assume he means difference from your old building. We know that you're not getting your direct energy information, but did you consider much in terms of energy use when you moved into the new building? Did you have much insight? I know with your certifications in design, you could probably look at some of those, but what was your sort of experience when you moved to this new building in terms of your expectation around energy?
Well, we knew we wouldn't be able to monitor it, so we just made sure that anything we put in was the lowest energy user possible. So that was really our goal. We put in LED lighting, occupancy sensors. You'll see that the light actually turned off on me a little while ago and I'm sitting in the dark because I'm not moving enough. But occupancy sensors, we have Energy Star appliances, just trying to select the appliances and fixtures that use the least amount of energy.
That makes sense. We've got another question from Philip here, maybe related to what we were talking about before a bit, but do you think you could convince the building owners / managers to do deeper retrofits now that the federal government is making money available for energy efficiency? We know that there's green stimulus packages coming out. Do you think that that's something that you as a tenant would be able to sort of leverage to convince your building to make some of those deeper retrofits?
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, it is actually something that we talked about when we were looking for other spaces. So I know we went to a couple of spaces that had like single glazing or really bad seals on their windows. And we actually talked to them at that time, like, are you planning to upgrade these? Would you upgrade them? And we actually turned down a couple of spaces because they weren't willing to make those upgrades. And we just didn't want to be in a space that was so underperforming. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so making sure that your landlord is committed to maintenance on the building is really important.
So one thing that I've sort of heard from some of our members, especially tenant organizations and businesses around Ottawa in the last couple of months, is businesses that have been working from home and are now reconsidering their office spaces and how much space they have, what they use it for. And a few organizations are in a position now where working remotely gives them a bit more freedom to take their time, be a bit more patient when it comes to selecting a new office space. I know that you went through this process before March when the pandemic sort of hit this area, but do you have, I guess, any other advice for tenants that are out there right now, maybe taking their time and searching for these buildings? Any particular red flags? I know you mentioned a few just now, but the glazing, but are there specific features you'd look for in a building or building management that you guys found that you were happy with?
We found it was really hard to find a building that was accessible, that had an accessible entrance, washrooms. That's something that maybe everybody doesn't look for. And it might be an afterthought, but I think it's really important. And you have a lot more leverage when you are looking for a space and your potential landlord is looking to fill the space. So if you find a space that you think could be made accessible with the addition of a ramp or a lift at the point when you're negotiating your lease, that's a great point to put those things forward and ask the landlord to make those improvements to the building. And that benefits everyone, not just yourself. And you also might not see an immediate benefit, but maybe down the road, you've got somebody who has those needs, a tenant or a staff member or a client, and providing an accessible building is really important.
That's great. So negotiating up front at the lease for some of those future concerns that you may have.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm just checking back. I don't see any more questions in the chat right now. So if anyone has any, feel free. Oh, there's one right now. I'll read that right away. From Edda, what did you find most challenging about the fit up? Meeting the sustainability standards, keeping the end users happy, keeping the client happy, and or staying on budget?
All of the above. I think because we have a lot of knowledge about sustainability standards and products, that was probably the least challenging. Keeping the end users happy, we were committed right from day one to make sure that we were checking in and collaborating with them. The client was myself, so that was important, but I think I had a handle on that. So I would say staying on budget was probably the hardest one. There are always expenses that you don't anticipate or things that you would like come in a little bit higher than what you've budgeted. So yeah, that would be the biggest challenge.
Makes sense. I mean, you guys are in a position of having so much expertise in sustainable design. Part of the great thing about being part of a network like Carbon 613 and Your Green Business is having access to these stories from different organizations and what they've been successful with and sharing some of that knowledge. So we really appreciate you being here today.
No problem.
I have a couple of little questions here. If people don't have any jumping on here. Oh, I've got one right now. I'll read from the audience. Will you go for any certifications? For example, LEED Gold, or do you have any?
We're actually working on our Fitwell application. Mm-hmm. We're hoping to get 2 stars with Fitwell. So we did look at all the different certification options. We considered LEED, we considered well building. Fitwell was really the best fit for us, and we actually found it most appropriate to interior fit up. So that we found it most appropriate to what we were doing, so we went with that system. And we are just finalizing our documentation to be able to submit that application.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that you looked at WELL certification, but won't be pursuing the certification, just more for the standards. So it is a good idea to look at what the different certifications are and what those requirements are, just to give you some guidance, I guess, but that's great. Now I've got one more question from Philip. Did you look at a return on investment calculation for lights, et cetera, like other retrofits that you guys did?
No, not really. We just tried to be as sustainable as possible. It's not always about the financials. There's a lot of other considerations. So when it came to selections, we really put sustainability as a high priority, and we didn't generally consider options that didn't have, recycled content or local manufacturers or Energy Star ratings. We made sure that we followed our mission and our vision and set those standards, and then we followed through with them.
Fantastic. I mean, every organization's obviously in a different place, but that's a very strong sustainability commitment and standard that you guys have. Really appreciated. Let me look back in here then. Philip commented that makes you the perfect client then. It's true. And I have another question here. Did the budget limit anything that you might have wanted to do and didn't get to because of the budget?
Well, it did it. Let me see. If we had a little more space, we would have added a shower to promote cycling to work a little bit more. In the end, we had to trade that off to have our secure bike storage, and we couldn't have everything. So yeah, I guess if we had a little bit more money, we would have added that. We would probably have improved the glass in some of our small meeting rooms. At the end of the day, we had to put our best glazing systems into our boardroom, and that one has the best acoustic privacy. And we settled for something a little bit less in the other meeting rooms, just to make the budget work. Those are the sort of trade-offs that we had to make.
That makes sense. Charlene has a question, which is actually related to something I had written. So I'll ask and then sort of build on that. But she asked where you guys got the recycled local furniture. And I was wondering too, were you able to use sort of regular suppliers to find some of those certified products that you guys talked about in terms of designing and fitting out that office space? Or did you have to find specific providers to source those kinds of things?
Well, our workstation furniture is Knoll. And they have recycled content in their products. Mm-hmm. And we selected that company because of that. Mm-hmm. Our local furniture is our kitchen table, and I reached out to some different local manufacturers and got quotes, and actually was a reasonable price. So I just poked around in the industry and looked for opportunities to go local and to find that recycled content.
That's great. Fantastic. So if anyone else has any more questions, feel free to post them up in the chat. I was really interested, and I don't know how interested other people are, in the idea of your plant team. I found that really exciting. I'm also someone who, you can probably see behind me, I have a couple plants in the office I like to keep, a couple behind the camera that you guys can't see. But that's a really interesting initiative. Obviously, we're always talking about green teams and sort of what they can do to support their office, both in terms of sustainability and well-being. But how did that process look for you? Were people sort of eager to jump onto that team? Did they commit a lot of time to that? What was the sort of, can you give us a bit more detail about that?
Sure. So we had, when we did the original surveys, there were a couple of people who kept bringing it up and that was really important to them. And so we just said, great, if that's really important to you, you can be on the plant team. And so they sort of volunteered themselves. So it came in different stages. One was the planning stage. And a few of us actually went one evening or a couple of evenings and purchased plants, cartloads full of plants. And then several staff members stayed late a couple evenings, repotting them all and shifting them around. And then once everything was established, a plant team was set up. So each pod of, I think there's 4 pods of 6 desks, and then there's plants in between each one. So each sort of row of plants was designated a specific person to care for them, because you want to make sure they don't get overwatered or underwatered. Mm-hmm. And our biggest challenge was, while the office was closed for 6 months, so we actually had people coming in and taking care of the plants. And we moved some of them to a specific area, opened the blinds to make sure that they were kept alive. And actually, I'd say 90% of them survived for 6 months, which was great. All because of the plant team and their care.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I mean, I think that's a great way that you guys went about identifying those candidates. It's something that we suggest when businesses are starting a sustainability committee or a green team for the first time, is to do exactly what you're doing. Send out some surveys, figure out where the priorities are, and the people who are the most vocal about things generally make good leads for those kinds of projects and teams. So fantastic approach there. I don't see any more questions popping up in the chat, so I'll encourage people again to please feel free to post one in there or even unmute your mic and ask one quickly. But I really thank you for this presentation. It's been fantastic. Lots of great insights here, lots of things I'll be sharing back with other tenant members of our Carbon 613 program and the Your Green Business Network. I have seen a few people online from a couple of the other hubs across the country as well, so hopefully they'll be bringing some interesting tips back to their teams and some of the businesses out in their wings. But as I'm not seeing any other questions pop up in the chat, perhaps we can move on to the closing and go on out. But I encourage anyone who has a last minute question to please post it in there and we'll circle back to it. But in the meantime, I'll thank you very much again, Jessie, and the rest of CSV Architects for joining us today and sharing all these great insights. Thanks as well to all of our attendees who took the time to join us today and learn some things that hopefully you can bring back to your workplaces, and keep pushing the envelope on business sustainability in Ottawa and across Canada, both with your organization, your business, but also with your landlord, with suppliers, all the different people that came together to sort of make this possible for CSV to have the sustainable office space. Don't forget to sign up for Your Green Business newsletter if you haven't already. Again, the link is in the chat. It looks like Mandy's just posted it again, so it's easy to find. It's the best way to stay informed about upcoming speakers and other green business events. We've got another virtual tour next month with IKEA Ottawa, so check in there for dates and registration. And thanks again to everyone, Jessie, everybody on the call, and everybody in the background working tech support for this. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon.